morning, everyone. This is today, Friday, November 20th, and you are looking at live pictures of the nation's capital from Washington, D.C., where the Senate still is in session this morning. The lights are burning because they've been up all night, working hard, trying to keep the government in business. We'll tell you more about that in the news in just a few more moments. I'm John Brokaw. Jane Pauley, how are you this morning? We sent Willard to Washington, but he couldn't get there all the way. He got as far as Baltimore and decided that's such a terrific city these days. Oh, my goodness, look at that.
Good morning, Captain. Good morning, Miss Jane. I'm standing on the deck of the USS Constellation, one of the great American ships, one of the first ones ever built, still floating. We'll talk about that and other beautiful things from the great Inner Harbor right here in Baltimore, Maryland.
Well, we hope you're not there to rewrite the national anthem, because after all, that's where it was written by Francis Scott Key, was in Baltimore.
I think he's wearing Francis's clothes.
Well, Francis and 4 or 5 other people's, I'm not sure altogether. Coming up during this half hour of today, we're going to get into a serious question for all of us, the question of violence. And standing by with the weather here now is Lord Willard Scott.
How do you do, sir? Good morning, Thomas. One thing I'll bet nobody ever knew in the whole world. Last night at dinner, I found out that here in Baltimore, among other things, Noxzema, Bethlehem Steel, Glen Elm, Martin, Babe Ruth's hometown, they invented the umbrella. Right here in Baltimore. At least they claim they do. I'm on the deck of the USS Constellation, and you may not know it, but this is the first U.S. official naval ship that was christened and launched. Now, the Constitution was made in Boston, but it was not launched until after the Constellation was launched here in Baltimore. And it has been in continuous operation with the United States Navy until 1945, went sort of into mothballs, and then the school children of Baltimore and contributions from other private funds helped to put this back in the water again. It is spectacular. This you'll want to come to see in Baltimore. Speaking of spectaculars, look at the map. You know the story. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 14 inches of snow. The northern plain states and the Great Lakes getting that blizzard, and it is a real honest-to-goodness blizzard. The first of the season in this part of the country. Snow flurries dipping down to the Appalachians by tonight, all the way up into New England and around the Great Lakes tomorrow in the eastern Great Lakes. We say for Saturday, some snow squalls around the Great Lakes into New England. Very cold. The wind chill will be a factor tonight in the east and again tomorrow, dropping temperatures 30 to 40 degrees from what they are today. Then showers in the northwest on Sunday and flurries along the coast, not the coast, but around the Great Lakes on Saturday and Sunday again. But mostly sunny in the middle part of the country. In other words, the big weather story is just that winter storm all across the upper plain states and the Great Lakes. Now, let's find out what's happening in your part of the country this morning. We have Boston, 53 and rain. Chicago, 42 and some snow. Dallas, Fort Worth, 62 and fair. Denver, 57 and partly sunny. Mrs. Lucinda Coiner, 104 years old, Ardmore, Oklahoma. Happy birthday from the captain. Now here's Jane in New York.
Thanks, Captain. And here's a morning line. The White House is sending David Stockman out to test the waters in a series of GOP fundraisers, according to the Wall Street Journal.
Gosh, Baltimore has it all. It has that great waterfront area. It's the home of H.L. Mencken, the home of the Colts and the Orioles. And now, to just kind of put the wrapping on the package, Willard Scott standing by this morning with about 48 yards of yellow slicker.
Hey,
Willard,
good morning.
how are you?
I needed that yellow slicker about an hour ago because we were having rain here, as a matter of fact, 25 minutes ago. This, of course, the USS Constellation, the oldest commissioned ship in the United States Navy. 1797, it first hit the water right here in Baltimore, and that's where she is right now, in the beautiful inner city harbor in Baltimore, Maryland. That's where we're doing our weather this morning. Let's take a look and see what the map reveals. You know by now with the temperature bands, it is cold. 10 degrees in northern Minnesota. These are high temperatures today. The 20s down into the northern plains. It is going to be very, very cold with a wind chill reaching a factor of 20 below zero across parts of Michigan and Wisconsin, and maybe as that cold air moves along even into the northern Ohio Valley by tonight. We have blizzard conditions, up to 14 inches of snow in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Chicago's getting some snow this morning, and then flurries will linger from New England in the mountains down to New York State around the eastern Great Lakes, the Appalachian Mountains even as far south as North Carolina, so watch out for that. The other big story is heavy thunderstorms throughout Georgia, parts of South Carolina, and northern Florida. They are occurring even as we speak. The rest of the country in good shape except for some showers in the northwest. Now here is what's happening in your part of the country this morning. We have New York 60 and rain, Phoenix 80 and sunny, Seattle 53 and rain, St. Louis flurries and 37. We will be back from the aquarium. That's just across the river here. Don't you go away. Right now, Brian Gumbel has got a story for you, the only kind of real estate that Brian really is interested in.
Certainly there are a lot of easy and obvious ways to provoke an argument. But one of the surest I know of is to suggest to any sports fan that you're able to define the word great in terms of their particular area of interest. With that in mind, you wonder how or why the editors of Golf Digest would choose to do what they have done this month, and that is rank America's 100 greatest golf courses.
Back in just a few moments, Jane Alpert, one of the fugitives of the 60s and the 70s, talks about life in the underground. But first, a station break.
Saturday, Roy Clark hosts Tom T. Hall and more at the Nashville Palace.
Fantastic.
A Florida avocado is a smooth